So, in this story, we're going to be talking about how France's first known case of coronavirus was in December, which is wild. Um, which is absolutely wild. So, a patient treated in hospital near Paris on the 27th for suspected pneumonia actually had coronavirus because before doctors knew what we were looking at, they diagnosed coronavirus as pneumonia, like a different kind of strand of pneumonia. So, um, the normal stuff just didn't work. Is crazy. This means that the virus may have arrived in Europe almost a month earlier than previously thought. Dr. Cohen said a swab taken at the time was recently tested that came back positive for COVID-19. The patient has since recovered. Said he had no idea he had caught the virus and had not travelled abroad. So it's going to be interesting, like if they can figure out how this person actually caught the coronavirus. Knowing who was the first case, key to understanding how the virus spread. The World Health Organization said it's possible more early cases will come to light. Said spokesman Christian Lidmeier. Urge countries to check records for similar cases in order to gain a clearer picture of the outbreak, so they can use things like antibody tests to figure this stuff out. The French Health Ministry told the BBC that the government was obtaining confirmation on the case and that it would consider further investigations if they prove necessary. So I know through listening to the morning combat podcast, I can't remember what it's called, but Luke Campbell, one of the hosts of the show, he said that he had a really bad case of pneumonia in January, but he thinks that he might have had coronavirus, which a lot of people are saying now because if he had a lot of the symptoms from it and it really took the wind out of him, it really did him in. And so it's interesting, and that was in January, early January. I think that was before the first confirmed case. So France is not the only country where subsequent testing points to earlier cases. 2 weeks ago, a post-mortem examination carried out in California revealed that the first coronavirus death in the US was almost a month earlier than previously thought. What do we know about the new case? Dr. Cohen, head of emergency medicine at Avencine, oh god, French pronunciations, and Jean Vendière hospitals near Paris, said the patient was a 43-year-old man, so he's not very old, from northeast of Paris. He told the BBC's Newsday programme, I've never heard of that, that the patient must have been infected between the 14th and the 22nd of December, as coronavirus symptoms take between 5 and 14 days to appear. The patient, Amirouche Hamar, was admitted to hospital on the 27th, exhibited a dry cough, a fever, and trouble breathing, symptoms which would later become known as the main indications of coronavirus. This was 4 days before the World Health Organization, before the World Health Organization's China country office was informed of cases of pneumonia. So this is on the 27th of December. And so China would have seen this way before this, then, if this is the case. Mr. Hammer told French broadcast TV BFM TV that he had not left France before falling sick. Dr. Cohen said while two of his patients' children had also fallen ill, his wife had not shown any symptoms. So that's pretty interesting that potentially his kids have got it from him, but his wife may have got it as well, but didn't show any symptoms of it. But Dr. Cohen pointed out that the patient's wife worked at a supermarket near Charles de Gaulle Airport. I didn't know Charles de Gaulle had his own airport or had an airport named after him, and could have come into contact with people who had recently arrived from China. So it's very possible that his wife gave it to him. If his wife was asymptomatic, the patient's wife said that often customers would come directly from the airport still carrying their suitcase. So I wonder if they gave her an antibody test, what it would say. We're wondering whether she was, there it is, asymptomatic, Dr. Cohen said. So here we've got some analysis from Michelle Roberts, the health editor. Could coronavirus be circulating in Europe in late 2019, many weeks before it was officially recognised and declared a threat? And this further indicates to China hiding evidence more, because China would have seen this way before this then, if it had time to come here. How does this change what we know about the pandemic? It might be that the test result is an error and so does not change a thing. But if it's correct, it means the spread of the disease was going unchecked in Europe while all eyes were on the east of Wuhan. Certainly, any laboratories in Europe with samples from patients sick with similar symptoms around the time may want to run a test for coronavirus to see what it reveals. So antibody tests, I think she's talking about. What does it matter? Until now, what were thought to have been France's first 3 cases of coronavirus were confirmed on January 24th. Of those, 2 had been to Wuhan, where the outbreak had first been detected, and the third was a close family member. So it would make sense that these people potentially would have gotten it. Mr. Hammer, positive test results suggest the virus was present in France much earlier, and that's scary that it was there in, I think it was December, rather than in January. Roland Kell, a professor of veterinary epidemiology, the data science at the and data science at the University of Edinburgh said it confirmed Mr. Hammer's case, highlighted the spread at which the infection starting in a seemingly remote part of the world could quickly seed infections elsewhere, and that's the with globalization, that's the impact of the pandemic, that it can spread insanely quickly without us even realizing that. If we thought that the first cases were really in January, but it was in December, that's kind of mad when you think about it. That we were weeks behind from the jump. It means that the lead time we have for the assessment and decision making can be very short. How was the new case found? Dr. Cohen told the BBC that he had the idea to look back at all patients who had been in intensive care units with suspected pneumonia between December 2nd and January 16th. He had around 14 patients who had tested negative for pneumonia. He defrosted their samples and tested them for traces of COVID-19. He said 14 of the samples, one tested positive for traces of COVID-19. A second test on the same sample also came out positive. So one person here with suspected pneumonia out of the samples of 14 actually had it, which I don't know what to make of that. He goes, a full report was due later this week, which will be published by the International Journal of Antimicrobial Agents. I couldn't actually find the article, so if anyone can find it, let me know and I'll try and read into it as best I can. Not being a science guy myself, probably wouldn't be the best thing for me to do, but who cares? But yeah, that'll wrap this up. But yeah, the first known case in France was in December, not in January. And so it does beg the question, if we look in this article here, this article is about the people that have disappeared, gotten arrested about coronavirus. This was the doctor that was killed by the Chinese. Well, he wasn't killed by the Chinese government, but he was silenced by local police. He died February 7th. So it does raise the question that, look, we know this doctor was silenced, right? How many other doctors could there have been that were silenced? Because if it's the case that this thing was here in December, oh crap, keep doing that. Was here in December. That the first patient treated in hospital for suspected COVID was the 27th of December. That means China had a far bigger window than we know of, because it takes 2 weeks to kick in. So it's very possible that November and December, I haven't got the exact timeline in front of me, but it's very possible that China actually hid the coronavirus longer than we anticipated, which is a very bad sign if that's the case. Speculation on my part, and maybe wrongful speculation, but it does tell us that potentially China had lied for longer than we had anticipated, and that there may be more people like Dr. Li Wenliang who were silenced. And so that would be very interesting to see if we can get more evidence of this. I doubt we will do, because China is an extremely secretive, authoritarian country. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. You know, if you guys have any thoughts, leave them below in the comments. And like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.